Hello, it's Charles Fockaert on November 1st, 2017. I welcome all of you. This is On the Road with Charles Fockaert number 12. I encourage you to watch the other videos before you watch this one because they're in a series and I relate in this video things that happened in the last video. So if you don't get the whole series, you're going to miss out. If you don't want to do that, that's up to you. Hey, I'm here in the middle of Utah. Let me get the map and show you where I am. Okay, I left Provo yesterday morning, and I thought I had that problem fixed with when I ran on the house batteries, it was actually using the engine battery, and I thought I had that fixed. But guess what? I get ready to go yesterday morning, and I was going to upload a couple videos, but I decided to move on early, and I'm glad I did. I get there to turn the engine over, and dead. D-E-D, dead. So, get the generator out, get the battery charger out, charge the battery. But it's a good thing, and that's where your prayer comes in handy. You people, a lot of bad things happen to us, but it's actually a good thing, and we don't realize it. I noticed that the alternator belt was loose. And I saw that when I was working with Mr. Toxic, the mechanic there up in Pocatello. There wasn't a lock washer on there, and I looked at that, and you know how you do, you look at things and it doesn't register, and I said, that really needs a lock washer on there, but I didn't put it, well, I put it on yesterday, so it's tight now, I hope. I might check it this morning before I leave here. So I had to charge the battery, and anyway, I head out of Provo, and I'm going on Highway 15, and there's quite a few cars still, and then finally it gets down to, it's only 3 lanes. And I see on the sign Las Vegas, and I go, man, that's where I'm headed, somewhere warm. I'm headed down the road, get to the first incline, the first grade, and I'm watching the needle. Oh, but wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I can tell you this first because that came before this one, where I am now. It starts getting up there hot. And, I'm pulling. I got a 40-year-old Chevy Minnie Winnie here, and I'm pulling my truck. So, on the flat, no problem. It goes along 50, 55, and that's as fast as I want to drive, folks, to get better mileage. And this thing, those high speeds, those trucks come by, and I'm going 60, 65. Hey, 50, 55 is the way I drive in this vehicle. So, pulling that truck up the road, and I want to give a hat tip to my friend Ryan up in Edmonton. He says, that vehicle is getting older, and pulling that truck up those grades is going to really work that engine. And man, if that ain't the truth. So I get about 3/4 of the way up this grade, and this thing's going towards hot, and the last thing I want is an overheated engine. So I pull over and I turn the engine off, and that was maybe a mistake, but I won't do that again. I'll leave the engine running so the water's circulating through there, and I call my friend Mike, my buddy Mike, and we talk. Let me take a sip of this before it gets cold. This is hot chocolate this morning. I think I'm going to switch over from coffee to hot chocolate. And he gives me the idea, oh, maybe turn your heater on. I say, oh, that's a good idea, because the fan will blow that hot heat into the cab, and maybe get away some of it out of the engine. So I sit there for quite a while, and I realize that I got to fix some few other things. My hazard lights don't work, and that's hard to fix on neither one of my on the truck or the RV. When the truck's plugged into the RV, the hazard lights don't work. So I got to work on that because I wanted hazard lights. I noticed all the trucks going by had their hazard lights on going up this grade. And in this grade, it wasn't a 1 on the scale. It was probably around a 4 or a 5 on the scale. So it was overheating. So anyway, I pull over again. I go, oh man, am I ever going to get to where I'm going? So I let it cool off, and I take off again. I got the heater on this time. I get over the grid. I get down the other side. Now remember, I got the brake. The rear brake got a leak. And I think it's inside in the cylinder. We couldn't check it at the tire store because it's all enclosed. And I got to take the axle out and take the drum off to get to that brake. So going down the grades, I got to go slow so I'm not going too fast. So if I have to hit the brakes, I can able to stop. And I don't have a brake assist on the truck. So pretty tense morning yesterday, but I got down here to Scipio. I'm on Highway 15. I'm somewhere at a truck stop near Scipio, and it's in the San Pete area here. And I have this C crane. I used to live in Fortuna. I did most of my real estate development in Fortuna, California, and this is where C crane is. And I bought this, and it has the weather. And they say the winds. I want to show you the winds and why I stopped. But before I go there, I want to tell you, I mean, I'm going down the road, and the new tires that I put on, man, it made a difference. It really did. It's not perfect, but it's still handling the road better, and I feel so much safer. I got 6 brand new rubber on the roads, and I feel safer. Hey, I got to tell you about the wind, and there's a lot here to say because there's a lot going on, and maybe you guys aren't interested, and so anyway, maybe I'll watch these videos alone sometime. I'm the only one watching. That's why I got 10 views, because 9 of them were mine. So when I stopped at the truck stop that I'm going to show you here in a minute, there was a guy that drives a triple for FedEx. And he was out there doing a walk around, hammering his tires. And I went up to him because I had pulled over, and I was talking to him, and I said, man, those triples there, how many feet in that? 95 feet in a triple. And they drop one off in one city and they move on. That's why they use the triples. And that's why I think FedEx is one of the best run, along with UPS, one of the best run countries in the world. Anyway, I started talking to him, nice guy, a white guy. Started talking to him, and I told him about my experience because it was windy out, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. And he knew the place where I got blown over in the other lane. He knew. He called it a Manera in Idaho. I think that's what it is. And I looked on the map, and it's right there. Yeah, I saw it. And that was where I blew over in the other lane. And I tell you what, that was a wake-up call for me. I'm not driving this vehicle in a wind. And today the forecast is for 15 to 25 mile an hour wind in the afternoon. So it's now about 5:30. It's 5:58. Took me a while to get this set up. I'm going to head out of here, Lord willing, early. Beat the wind. There's a grade right here that's going to test me again. I'm all stressed just thinking about it, folks. I mean, this has been a stressful, and I haven't had a day off in quite a while. I mean, I've been working every day since October 11 when I left, and before that, long before that, haven't had. So I'm stressed. The whole point of retirement is to relax, and I feel it under my right, I got to be careful I don't have a heart attack, folks. So I mean, what's the point of that? Get down to Arizona and have a heart attack. So anyway, I talked to him, and he says, well, you were wise to pull over because the wind on the other side is worse than it is here. And I asked him how the wind was on those triples, and he said, oh, not good. So I got to hand it to you truck drivers. You got a pair. You drive in bad weather, you drive in the winter, you drive in the rain, you drive in the snow, you drive in the wind, you drive with us crazy drivers in the front of you, and you got to go around us. But I thank you for being as careful as you are. So anyway, I'm going to show you where I am and why I stopped. So I stopped here at the Flying J, and I pulled into this wide graveled area, and you can see that flag there. The wind's coming out of the north. I could feel the wind, but I couldn't see any trees blown or any brush blown, but I could feel the wind but it was coming from the north, so headwind, I'm sorry, from the southwest, actually, that is. And I could feel the wind coming at me, so it wasn't so bad as it was in Idaho there, a Minari. Let me check so I get the right name there. Yep, a Minari. Minari is what he called it. So the wind's blowing. I'm not driving in the wind because I don't want to get stressed out. The whole point is to get safely to where I want to go and relax and do some reading and do some study and et cetera, et cetera. And so the flag was straight up, straight out, folks, and it was windy. And I said that's enough for me one day. I didn't get very far, but I got a little further, and that's all I need to do every day. I'm in no hurry. I'm not working any longer. I want to take it easy, so I pulled over and I got to here, I don't know, 2 o'clock or so, and I just hung out. I relaxed a little bit, and I'm going to get up here this morning early. I'm going to get out of here early this morning, and I had time, so I called my insurance agent, and because I keep getting emails from the insurance company about how I need to give them a proper address so they can send me the my official documents. And I called him and I said, hey, I don't want you to send me any official documents to my P.O. box because my P.O. box is about this big and I don't want it all. And I don't have anybody up there. You know what? I was up in Kalispell and I didn't make one good friend that I can trust or that I would even ask to go check my mail for me. Isn't that sad? These two brothers I talk about, these two twins, they don't even have a car anymore. Now, in order to understand what I'm talking about with the twins, you got to watch the other videos, folks. This is a series, as I say. So I got my mailbox up there getting full of this, all the mail that you get that you don't want, and I'm afraid the post office is going to not put the important mail in there, and I won't get the important mail. So I got that on the back of my mind. And I was talking to my insurance agent, and, nice guy, the average kind of a guy, and I started talking to him. He asked me what was going on. He wasn't busy there, so we spent a few minutes, and I got to tell him about the Las Vegas thing was a false flag, and I forget all that we talked. He said, really? And I said, yeah, there was more than one shooter, and that guy, Lee Harvey, and I said, that's an important name, and he said, oh, really? And I said, yeah, multiple shooters and all that. So don't think that what you're seeing on TV, on Talmud Vision, I didn't tell him that, but don't think that what you're hearing on the news is the truth, because it's not. And we got to talking. I was able to tell him that 9/11 was not. I told him I lived in the Middle East, and Osama bin Laden was in the hospital. He died in Dubai in 2001 in December. It was all over the news in the Middle East, Arab-speaking newspapers, but not a word of it here. And I said, I just had a really good time talking to him. I recommended he go to rents.com. Hey, I don't agree with everything Rents does and says, but it's an aggregate. I said, Rents has a whole slew of links that you can. He didn't have a clue, folks. He's like the average guy. We got to keep this in mind. The average person doesn't spend the time on the internet and on the links and on the websites and watching the YouTube videos that you people do. The average Joe Schmo six-pack TV watching, beer swilling individual, brain dead individual, they don't have a clue, folks. Wow. And that's how these Esau Edomites are able to continue their charade and their false flag ops and all their wars, because most people just do like my insurance agent. Excuse me. They don't have a clue. They're working and they go home and they watch TV and they have dinner and they talk with the wife if they have one, and they maybe watch a ball game or something, and they go to bed, and they do it all over every day after day after day after day, and they think that's living, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Don't have to be that way, folks, but that's the way we've accepted it. Doesn't have to be that way. I think I've lived a pretty exciting life, and I don't spend any time watching television at all. Zero, zilch, nada. So I'm going to pause this, collect my thoughts a little bit, and then maybe we'll end it here so I can prepare to move on. Today is November 1st, as I mentioned. Today was my father's birthday. And I want to remember my father here, and I want to relate to those of you watching this something. My mother, my father's wife, left my father when I was about 9 or 10 years old in probably 1962, and she went to live with her mother and father in Southern California. And she left my father alone, and he only got to see us 2 more times in his entire life. She took us 3 boys away from him, and I think he was pretty darn proud of us boys, and a pretty proud father, and he was a good provider. He was a building contract, a real estate developer like I ended up being. And my mother even had to admit that he built a good house. He was a good businessman. And I didn't get to know my father very well. And he wasn't the best guy in the world. He was crass and crude. And that's kind of where I get the, I heard him say over and over again, you got your head up your ass. And I heard him say they used to use the N-word. My uncle was a Mason. And the 2 words I can't even repeat, but the 2 words I heard them say together, because we lived outside of Detroit. 2 words I heard them put together. The 1 word I heard them put together with the N word was lazy. Lazy. And my father spoke his mind. He was very outspoken. But he still had a lot of business. He still sold. There was no PC, no politically correct then, folks. My father could say what he wanted to say, and he did. And I never got to really get to know my father, and I won't go any further than that. But I want to say, hey, you women, any women watching this, and don't leave your husband unless you absolutely have to. You're not going to be any happier anywhere else. My mother left a full basement, full house my dad built on a nice lot. She was a home mother, didn't have to go to work. She had a 1955 Chevy Bel Air for herself. All she had to do was stay home, take care of the kids, and this is where the problem was, folks, is that I think she didn't want to fulfill her womanly obligations to my father, and then the friction started. And guess what? There was a repeat. As much as I didn't want to get a divorce, I did everything, and I stayed with my ex-wife longer than I should have for the sake of the children and the family. And this is my reward. This is what I get. My children don't talk to me. I haven't talked to my children since 1999. My son and my daughter a little bit once in a while, a couple times there. I don't know how exactly it happened, but we talked, but I don't talk to my children. I don't know why. I don't know why. You're going to have to ask them. And I think my mother broke my father's heart. And it was sad. I look back at it now, and I realize that my mother really effed up. I remember her sitting there in the chair watching the boob tube. She had to get up every morning at 6 o'clock and drive into Los Angeles in a carpool with a bunch of people she probably didn't like at a job she had to go to. And we never had any money. I had to go to work at 13. And I had to work through high school. I had to work through college. I'm not complaining. I'm just, maybe it was good for me, and I'm sure it was. But you know what? It didn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way, folks. Work it out with the husband or the wife. make it the last thing you're going to do, and swallow your ego. Go get some help. Work it out. It's going to be a lot easier to work it out rather than, and think about the children. A lot of you parents get a divorce and you don't give a damn about how it affects your children. Oh, it'll be all right. Everybody else, well, look around you now. The whole world's f***ed up because everybody's getting a divorce. Nobody can work it out together. I see it all over. Everybody's got their nose in the iPhone and the laptop, and not the laptop, but their phones. They can't even communicate. I sat there yesterday having lunch at Denny's because I said I'm gonna enjoy a meal at 11:30. I go into Denny's and all these older couples coming out of these brand new RVs, fifth wheel, all relaxed. They come out of their RV like it's no big deal. They're just on a Sunday stroll, and I'm coming out all stressed out with a 1997 beater, and they sit there in the restaurant, Denny. They don't even talk to each other. One of them's on the newspaper, and the other one's in the phone, and they're hey, get a life. Get something excitement going in your life. Have I was the only one that communicated with the waitress, and I talked to her about several things. Anyway, if you're married, work it out if you're having problems, because it ain't going to be any better with the next guy, okay? It's not always going to be better with the next guy. Yeah, I know some people abuse their wives, and some women abuse their wives too. They just do it in a different, and the domestic violence between men and women is about 50-50, folks. It's not exclusively men. And if you men beat your wife, you're a puss. You're a wuss. You don't hit women, okay? I never hit my wife, not even once. Boy, did I want to punch her face through the wall, but I restrained. She needed a punch in the face, but I didn't do that. But guess what happened to me? Look what happened to me because of evil woman. Proverbs 31, a virtuous woman should do good to her husband and not evil all the days of his life. Well, I've had 2 women, 3, 4 women that I can count that did evil to me, and I've had to live with it. Am I complaining? No, I'm just telling you the way it is. We live in a world, and Barry White, and one of the comments on the last video there, when I get to where I have internet, I'll show you it. He got ripped off by Esau Edomite Jew too. So I'm not the only one. There's several, and a lot of people that get ripped off don't understand, don't realize that the judge is an Esau Edomite. They get the financial shakedown and they end up on the street almost, but they don't realize it's an Esau Edomite that did it to them. Well, I'm going to cut her there. I'm hoping to get on the road early. I'm going to pack her up here a little bit. As soon as the first light comes, I'm headed up that grade. I'm hoping I can get to the top. If I can, I'm going to pull over, let it cool off, inch my way up. I'm about 315 miles from Vegas. I got to go through there. That's going to be my next stressor, my big stressor. It's stressful for me to drive on these roads, folks. I'm not used to it. And this high-profile Minnie Winnie isn't the best on the road when those trucks are going by. Yeah, whew, blow you over. But I'm making it. I thank you for praying. I really do appreciate and covet your prayers. And may the grace of God, our Father, the creator of the level plain earth, may his grace be upon us all, for we certainly need it. See ya.